It's 4 o'clock on a Monday, and you know what that means. It's time for another exciting episode of Taxi TV Live. Yeah, woo! And the audience goes, well, this week starring special guest star, Mr. Bob Mayer. Yeah, welcome, Bob. And thank you, band. Thank you, audience. And let me get the real audience open. I forgot to fire up the chat room, so here we go. Hope everybody had a great weekend. Come on, computer, cooperate. There we go. Okay. Chat room is open. Everything is good. So,
there's peeps out there.
Yep, there are people out there. And most of them show up late. So in 5 minutes, there'll be twice that many people out there.
I like it.
Hello, you guys. We have a very loyal audience of regulars that show up from all over the world. And I got to say, I love these guys. They've become like family over the last couple of years.
This is awesome.
Almost 5 years now that we've been doing it.
I can see you guys. Wow, that's crazy.
It's like Miss Frances in Romper Room. You know, you look in the magic mirror and there they are.
Can you imagine if you could FaceTime all this? Leading on a lot of monitors.
Yeah, I would. I'd need more monitors than NBC has in their news control room. So Bob is the CEO of Black Toast Music, and please, I know that people are going to watch his show today and think, I'm going to Google that guy and send him a bunch of music. And you know, a year from now, a couple thousand people will have seen this. Don't bombard him with a bunch of unsolicited stuff, please. And I'll tell you why in a minute. Anyway, Bob is one of my favorite people in the industry. He's a great guy. He's contrary to what you'll see on the show today, he's highly intelligent. He really is.
Wow. Thank you very much.
Bob is incredibly smart. He's very pragmatic, very real world. He gets it. He's very honorable. And as you guys know, that means a lot to me. So I'm really thrilled to have you here.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Our association now for many years
it's been a good one.
Great and productive for all involved. Bob is also a composer and producer who began his career in the 70s as a touring and studio bass player for artists like Hank Williams Jr., Chuck Berry, Leslie Gore, Bo Diddley, Stuart Copeland, Brian Wilson. Did you see the Brian Wilson movie, by the way?
I didn't.
Way
it was
better.
Very sad.
Way better than I thought it would be.
Interesting. I thought it was very sad.
It was sad.
And when I worked with him, it was an interesting time.
He worked with Del Shannon, Marie Osmond, and many, many more. And
some of those people are not with us anymore.
I know. Didn't we just lose Leslie Gore?
We did.
2 weeks ago or something?
About a month ago, yeah.
Yeah. We're getting to be men of a certain age.
Yes, sir. Well, this is what's scary. You're talking about the 70s. And I was a player back then. Hey.
And you still do play.
I do, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Black Toast has had tons. Well, I should go back. Bob develops and oversees a song catalog and production music library, which he licenses for film, TV, radio, advertising, internet, and video games. Black Toast has had tons of placement, countless at this point, but on shows like Homeland, Pitch Perfect 2, which is a film, obviously, Ray Donovan, which I love, Madam Secretary, The Client List, Jane the Virgin, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Person of Interest, Shameless, True Blood, Dexter, The Shield, 6 Feet Under, CSI New York, New Girl, Under the Dome, Nurse Jackie, Cold Case, Burn Notice.
We've been busy. And I ran a total today, so I can give you some news. To date, we're just over 300 placements with Taxi members.
Wow, hear that? 300 placements with Taxi members.
Yeah.
That's cool. Thank you.
Not bad, huh?
Thank you for running listings. Thank you for
of course.
Signing our members, and thanks for getting them placed. Wow,
of course.
300.
Is that kind of crazy?
That is crazy.
Yeah.
And he's one of the few guys in the industry that ever bothers to tell me this stuff. They've had lots of stuff in Hollywood features, commercials from Microsoft, Walmart, Domino's, just to name a few.
And recently, Whole Foods.
Really?
Yeah. In fact, 2 or 3 Taxi members just recently.
For in-store stuff or TVs?
Whole Food Internet.
Really?
Internet advertising.
Send me a link. Well, I'll Google
I will.
and find it.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that they did any ads.
Mm-hmm.
Bob frequently uses Taxi as a resource. Yes, he does. Has signed numerous Taxi members. Yes, he has. And placed 300 Taxi members. So let's give a warm welcome to Mr. Bob Mayer. Yes! every year I say this to him, or I think this, and this year I said it to him, which is I could do 90 minutes on stage with just Bob, and the audience would be well rewarded for being in the room. But I would probably upset some other library owners, and I know you guys like to have 4 or 5 people on the panel so that you can swarm them after the panel. So I said, why don't you come over and do the show? And he said, I'm there.
Absolutely.
So here he is.
Absolutely.
So we're going to listen to 3 or 4 pieces of music today throughout the show, and we're going to do a lot of questions that I've written out in advance, and we're going to take your questions as well.
You weren't kidding. That's a lot of peeps.
Yeah, it'll just keep going up.
That's awesome.
Yeah. As some musicians are prone to do.
Hi, Clark.
They don't all show up on time, but they do show up.
I'm just watching the names pop up.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really hard to do the show and not be. I want to hang out with them.
Right, sure, I gotcha. I'm seeing how many I recognize.
And there's Scott Hansen, who has a restaurant in Ohio. Tonight we're serving vegetarian lasagna made with vegetables grown on a rooftop garden, served with our house salad and our homemade focaccia bread, glass of house Chianti.
I'm on my way.
Yeah, I keep telling him one of these days I'm going to show up at his restaurant an hour before we go live with Taxi TV.
And do it there.
Yeah.
I like that. Can I go?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm telling you, I've been seeing this guy's menu now for 4 years, and he's become part of the family. Anyway, so give us some general do's and don'ts. The music library world, the film and TV music world, whether it's songs or instrumentals, very, very different from the record and radio world. What are some basic do's and don'ts for viewers who may not be familiar with that world yet?
Well, it's not so different from the record radio world, and here's why.
I'm curious.
Every single day, the people who are coming to me are looking for something similar to what you hear on the radio or in advertising.
Yes.
Every day of the week. And
because it's the fashion of the day.
Because it's generally, I hate to say it, but people come to us because we're affordable. Mm-hmm. So rather than, I won't mention a band, but having to go to X band that's, $50,000 to get their piece of music in the television show, I'm a little more affordable than that.
Right.
So, but they need something, the various producers may want something that creates that mood, lyrically, musically, whatever. That's the vibe they want. And so I get approached and they're like, do you have anything that's in the style of X, Y, or Z? They may be looking for a tempo. They may be looking for an instrumentation. They may be looking for a tempo and instrumentation and a lyric.
And an attitude.
And then, of course, it better be record quality. Mm-hmm. And that is pretty much my criteria, which is something I deal with a lot with writers that send me music, where for various reasons, the lyrics may not be quite up to snuff. Or one of the common things I'm running into is mix is not quite being up to snuff. Mm-hmm. What I'm up against, the people I'm dealing with all these shows you rattled off, those are big shows. Mm-hmm. Those people are not small music supervisors. They're the best of the best, and they're used to hearing the best of the best, and they're answering to huge producers. So for me to send anything that is less than radio friendly, it's not going to live.
So I've seen this transition happen, and quality shops like yours are a big part of the reason the transitions happen. And that is, library music used to be thought of as canned music.
That's right.
That all sounded homogenous and was very obviously library music.
That is correct.
And I've got to say, not too many people know this, but there's a woman named Susan Bader who was the shot heard around the world as far back as around 1992, maybe 93. She called me up and said, "Can you find me horrific music?" And that was the first call I ever got from a library.
Interesting.
And I said, horrifically bad or horrific, horror flick stuff?
Right.
Horror flick stuff. And she was the first library I was aware of that had ever signed independent musicians versus booking studio time, hiring composers, charting it out, hiring players. and cranking out a bunch of homogenous music.
Sure.
And within months of her doing that, all of a sudden we started getting calls from other libraries and then a few supervisors. And all of a sudden, along with at the same time, Mark Ferrari was doing his thing.
Sure.
And all of a sudden, the industry started to take a shift to there are some really talented independent artists out there.
Yes, Mark saw it before anybody else as far as the song-based thing.
Right.
I was shortly after Mark. This is our 25th year this year.
Wow.
Yeah, can you believe it?
Congratulations.
Thank you. 1990.
That's a big damn deal.
It is a big damn deal.
Yeah, I mean, not that many companies hang in that long.
Yeah, 25 years this year. Mark started, I want to say, a couple of years ahead of me, and then right around the same time, I came in was Barbara Jordan.
Yeah.
Who is now, she's out of that world. She sold to Cindy Bedell, who was on the panel last year at the rally.
And runs listings.
Exactly. Cindy's great. And Cindy's, been in the biz a long time as well. But my catalog wasn't started to be a library. I was a songwriter. I was a musician, player, in the trenches. And it sort of was an accident how my company came to be. I was a songwriter. I was really lucky. I was playing on a record that was being funded by one of the biggest music supervisors in LA at the time.
Wow.
He was funding these indie artists, and then he owned the masters because he was, of course, funding it. And then those masters he was placing
in his movies,
his film and television.
Oh, so people were doing that even back then.
Well, it was clean. I mean, it was clean. One could question the morality of it, but it was clean, and he did really good business. And I was on this record date for a week, and he was hanging out. I'm hanging out, and he goes, "Oh, you write songs?" And I said, "Well, yeah." And he goes, "Well, you got to send me something." And my first song was in Party of Five.
Wow.
Way back, and I saw the check, and I went, schlep an amp to Santa Barbara for $50 or, it was early enough in the industry. He liked what I did, thank God. So then I was getting a lot of placements there, then Dawson's Creek, and then The Nanny, Mad About You. So my point being is I didn't start to be a library. I was a songwriter, just like a lot of these cats.
Until you couldn't fill all the requests with your own stuff?
10 years.
Wow.
10 years, it was either me or me and co-writers, co-producing, friends of mine that saw what was happening. Luckily, people liked what we did. So, our name was getting around, NBC, we were doing movies of the week, this and that, on and on and on. And it got to the point where I'm going, holy cow, the amount of music these people, it was like Pac-Man. Mm-hmm. Go. Couldn't get enough of it. So you can only write so fast and keep it at a quality.
Yeah.
And that was always my mantra. Keep the quality at this level. Don't go for the numbers. And part of that came from, during this period of time, I was lucky enough to hook up with another very major supervisor who's still on the scene today. This was 20 plus years ago, and I won't mention his name because he probably wouldn't want me to, but I'll never forget, he came across a catalog, and he was very big on this catalog. And for about a year and a half, he kept going to that catalog sort of predominantly. And I was like, oh, man, what, Shortly after, we were having lunch about a year and a half later, and he goes, yeah, I'm never calling them again.
Why?
Because they started signing everything under the sun and didn't care about quality anymore. And he was like, you know what? He goes, this is, I can't field all this.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget it. And it stuck with me, and it's been like the basis of my, what I do with my company. I don't want to be dropped. These people are major people.
Right.
These people are players in the world that we're trying to be in. I don't want to pull the rug out from under them.
So let's talk about that quality issue, and then I want to listen to a piece of music,
Sure.
and as I promised you guys we would. Many months ago now, probably 3, 4, 5, 6 months ago, Bob and I were on the phone. I would say once every couple of months we have a 10, 15-minute chat.
Sure.
And during the course of that conversation, I said, he called me because a taxi member had submitted stuff to a taxi listing that Bob was running. We forwarded the music to Bob, and he said, "This guy's already in my catalog with this song. It's already signed exclusively, and the guy's still out there pitching it." So we have no way of knowing because most of the companies we work with don't tell us when they sign something. So this guy was either ignorant, which is not a pretty sounding word, but I mean unknowledgeable about the mores and norms of the industry, didn't understand that he had signed an exclusive contract and couldn't pitch it to other outlets.
Well, you know what? This story ends fine. What ended up happening was I wanted you to be aware that this had happened and see if you knew anything about it.
Right.
And I mean, I always go directly to the writers. I want to know. I want them to know I'm aware. You know, and I want to see what they're thinking. You know, this was just, from what I could tell, an honest mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it went away as fast as it popped up.
But during the course of that conversation, we talked about, I said, well, he said, you know, I should really stay more in touch with you and run more listings more frequently. And I said, where do you get the rest of the music that you put in your catalog? And he said, well, you know, the majority of it probably comes from people who are already in the catalog, referring friends, other writers, and composers.
That's yes. In regard to Taxi, that is so. You know, it's gotten to the point after 25 years, Michael. You know, and with the internet, you know, someone sees I had a song in American Reunion,
right? And
I'm a library, so I get people from all over the world every day shooting me, hey, you know, whatever. I'm blah 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 blah. Finally, it's gotten to the point where I go, where did you hear about us? And I'm finding out because of the trade mags, some of which I've never heard of.
Right.
In my life, in 25 years, I've never heard of them.
And blogs and all that stuff. That's why I forewarned everybody at the top of the show not to inundate you with music, because everybody thinks they've got that perfect thing. Right. The whole point of this particular part of the discussion is that when Bob told me that much of the music that he gets from taxi members refer their friends to him.
That is true.
And I said, really? How much of that is good? He said, you know, I've never really thought about it, but I can only use about 10% of it.
That sounds right.
So he said, wow, yeah, I never really thought about that, but I'm spending all this time listening to music, and it's sent by people with the best of intention. They're trying to help out a friend. They think it's good.
Absolutely.
But they're not in your seat knowing. They don't know what you know, and their quality bar may not be as high as yours is.
Right.
And I was shocked that people who are already in the business, working musicians, were sending stuff that 90% of the time wasn't over.
Can I mention Brooke?
Yeah.
Okay,
absolutely.
So Brooke.
Don't mention. There's some parts of her that you shouldn't mention.
Well, just that at one point in time she was working with us.
Yes.
So what I have the benefit of is Michael has an employee that has great set of ears and knows what I listen for.
Right.
You know, has an intimate knowledge of the level of quality I want, and had the experience of being in-house with us and seeing who my client base is, and she knows
what you know,
what I'm up against.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I'm pitching against the majors.
Yeah.
I'm a small guy, you know, compared to the behemoths I'm pitching against.
Well, from what I hear, a lot of the behemoths that are pitching wildly. I hear this all the time. From music supervisors will say to me, I don't really want to reach out to the majors because I'll send them a brief and they pitch me stuff that has nothing to do with the brief. My belief, it's just my own personal observation, is it comes from the old world of music publishing, where whatever the newest thing over the transom is, you get out there and you pound pavement with it.
There's that.
And I think that they do that sometimes. They get so enthusiastic about a particular piece of music that they don't read the brief. That's the key to everything in our world. Just give them what they're asking
there's
for.
a talent, too, to reading a brief and knowing, again, 25 years in the business.
Yeah.
You know, we've had this last year on the panel, I mentioned this. If you know who's sending you, hey, we're looking for lounge music.
Mm-hmm.
If you know the supervisor's in his 50s, the word lounge means something different than the supervisor who's in his 20s, generally. I mean, that's a you know, Maybe I
Right.
shouldn't paint that wide of a brush, but
Well,
you
the
have to look at
20-year-old
all,
could qualify it by saying for this scene in this show.
and that always helps.
Right.
But you know what? That's the other thing that, in our business, we have to be mind readers.
Mhm.
I mean, that's a huge part of our business, is figuring out what is that adjective they're using to describe what they're looking for. What do they really mean?
Right.
Then you have to do your research. You get on, you go, okay, what do they tend to use? What do these people reach for? What's their favorite music? Are they one of the KCRW DJs? What kind of playlist do they listen to? If they're posting blogs of their favorite music that they're, hey, this week I'm listening to X, Y, and Z, what are they listening to?
Yeah. I've actually done that show on Taxi TV where I've gone on and played a Spotify playlist of music supervisors so
Yeah.
that they can hear, because supervisors tend to listen to stuff, especially the ones that work at KCRW. They're on the cutting edge.
In a big way.
Yeah, and it's funny because a lot of the stuff that they put on their playlist they could never use in a show because it's just too far out there.
That would
and
be true.
And they've got to reel it back in. Because,
Although that's changing.
Yeah.
It's really, really interesting. You had shot me a couple of questions about trends.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell you, and I've been talking to people on the phone. I'm like, you're not, people go, what are they looking for these days?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, well, is it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? I mean, but it's now there's a real trend for foreign language.
Yeah.
Huge trend. I mean, I'm searching out Pakistani language music, Japanese, hip hop, Russian rap.
Tell them why there's a trend.
Well, there's a huge trend because a lot of the shows are international. Shows like NCIS,
Yep.
CSI, a lot of the films.
Covert Affairs, which I'm so sad was taken off the air. That show really grew on me. And right, you could look and see that they were going to Kazakhstan.
Exactly.
2 episodes from now, somebody who's really ahead of their game or on their game would reach out and start looking for what would you hear in a hotel lobby, a bar, an elevator, or a restaurant in Kazakhstan.
Absolutely.
Because they're going to be in one of those 4 places.
Madam Secretary. I mean,
Yeah.
it's international dinners.
Yeah.
The head of state from wherever they're having a dinner. I mean, so that has been a huge trend. And I've been watching it and growing my catalog over the last few years. I mean, I started doing it with the Latin. A lot of reggaeton, banda, mariachi. I saw that coming years ago. And now it's been this other thing, and I've been trying to build that over the last couple of years as well. Once again, it's a difficult thing to build quality.
Yeah.
And quality, it has to be really, really good. But yeah, I got a great Russian hip hop track, and Matt Hurt was a part of that one.
Okay.
And Madam Secretary this last season. Vietnamese pop. It's been growing like leaps and bounds. So, and then the other thing that I'm watching is, for some reason, there's this huge trend for 40s. Agent Carter, a lot of these television shows.
Masters of Sex, which is now in the 60s, but yeah, the whole first season was in the mid-40s. Yeah.
So, and I've mentioned to writers, that don't want to always be, I'm doing the next, Jay-Z sounding thing, or, as opposed to chasing what is the most current.
Mm-hmm.
I've also said, every year, without fail, people are looking for crooner.
Mm-hmm.
Sinatra, Mel Torme, anything along those lines. I mean, there's history repeats itself. The 40s. I mean, I'm pitching to a film. It's all 90s. I'm like, 90s? It's a 90s film. It's all it's all 90s.
Isn't it amazing that that's considered vintage now? 90s vintage.
Well, it's scary because that's when I started the company.
Yeah.
So there's a glut of this music. It's really hilarious. Yeah.
It's so many of our members are in their early 40s to early 60s. There's definitely a bump there, and their music is now. We have a mutual guy that we both know who specializes in vintage music like that.
Right.
And he loves Taxi as his resource for vintage music. I've had 2 or 3 emails today alone on placements that he's gotten.
Oh, that's awesome.
We have one guy who's 92 years old who has had music sitting on the shelf since 1947.
That's
it's
crazy.
had 16 placements.
That's awesome.
And it made his life complete.
Well, I tell you, the international thing and the vintage thing, that it also can't, well, hopefully it isn't, if this guy had the rights to the music, but what I've noticed, and no one ever sees this, is the hours that we put in to making sure tracing back the ownership of these, who owns the master.
Right.
Was there someone who paid for that master? Maybe you wrote it, but did somebody pay for the recording?
And a lot of people are going to say, no, I own it, because they want to sign.
And we are crazy about our due diligence.
Yeah, because if you're not, somebody's going to come back and bite you on the butt the minute that thing shows up in an episode or something.
That's right. That's right.
Let's listen to a piece of music.
Sure.
Let's see what we've got here. This first thing, I never give out the members' names, but the first thing is a song or a track. I'm not sure if it's a song or an instrumental, but it's called Difference. Let's have a listen.
These are questions, comments, some questions. This is from the 40s.
All right, Glasgow Fig. Okay, clearly that was a song, not an instrumental.
I love "My Throat Hurts." That is a great comment. Yeah, whoever sang that, ouch. Ouch.
Okay, where is it on the quality bar? Does it?
From what I heard, it sounded great.
And do people ever ask for?
Yes, they do. This is an interesting genre of music. It's not as, in my world, requested as often as it used to be.
Because of the cyclical
thing of when, things ebb and flow.
This would have been, what, late 90s, early 2000s?
Yeah.
So we got to wait for those shows to start popping up.
Well, no, it's funny. It'll rear its head, but it'll just be not as often. It'll be a kid who's listening to his headphones and his mom's pounding on the bedroom door trying to get his attention. But it's not.
NCIS guys are tracking down somebody and they walk into a club, the door opens up, and this is what
possibly, yes, very possibly. And it does come up, just not as much. I mean, dare I say hip hop is still probably the #1 genre. I mean, hands down.
And it's tough to find authentically good hip-hop from the hood that's kosher to use because of the sample issue. The guys who are making the real deal from the street don't really care so much about using illegal samples. You got to care a lot that they did.
I care an awful lot. Yeah, absolutely. And, luckily I have a couple of aces in the hole that work with me that are younger. Mm-hmm. And they can hear things for things that are sampled even more currently. Like if I hear something that's been sampled from the 70s or 80s, I'm going to know it.
Right.
Or even 90s. But, if it's something that's just, it's something sneaks its way in, I have to have 3-4 different sets of ears on things.
Wow.
Yeah.
People wonder, why do libraries make half the money? They don't realize, they think it's as simple as you hear a piece of music, go, yeah, sign here, kid. and it goes into a catalog. They don't know about the mastering that you may do to it. They don't know about the due diligence and the vetting that goes into it.
There's a lot of research. A lot of
Yeah.
research. It's crazy. You're right. In some way, I was kind of joking. It would be funny to do a reality TV show in some one of these catalogs to watch what goes on in a daily basis. One of the questions I know you shot across my bow is, how many pitches
Does it take before you land something?
well, or how many pitches do we do in a month? So I
Right.
said, Ryan, how many pitches are we averaging the last 3 months? Give or take on a monthly basis.
Yeah.
And he came up with somewhere in the neighborhood of like 50 pitches a month. And I said, 50 pitches? I said, that doesn't sound right. And he goes, 50 pitches meaning if a show calls you or emails you and says, hey, I'm doing the next season of, don't send me more than 50 tracks.
Right.
So that's one of those 50 pitches.
Right.
Or, there's films that I'll pitch for 4 scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's a pitch. The next day, another scene. Another scene. Then a month later, they never got anything for those first 4 scenes.
Right, they're back again.
They're back again, because nothing's clearing, or they can't get it for the price, or the producer changes his mind. We've changed direction.
Yeah.
We don't want to go this, we want to go that. It's pretty darn crazy. Or, we're looking for something that evokes this feeling, but we need to have banjo and tabla and, something because there's an on-screen,
Yeah.
something.
We get all the same stuff, even from library owners who are trying. We get it from supervisors as well, but it makes it even more difficult when the library owner gets a request from a supervisor. Then it goes to the library owner who's got to divine what the supervisor is asking
That's
for.
right.
Then we have to divine what the library is asking for. And it frustrates us when we send music back to the library and they go, wasn't exactly what I wanted.
Right.
Well, we've got a direct quote from you. During the phone conversation, the person taking the order was
Sure.
typing it into the database. God, I don't know what I was thinking when I said that.
Sure.
And that's part of the everyday life of anybody pitching music. It's all very,
I'll pick up the phone.
yeah.
I have
Right.
people looking at me going, what are you doing? And I said,
Yeah.
I'm picking up the phone. I said, this adjective, that could be anything.
Right.
So I'll call the supervisor myself, and I know they're busy, so I don't do it all the time.
Yeah.
But if it's something I go, well, I know I've got this music. I'm going to hone it down. And sometimes they'll use an adjective, and they're human too.
Right.
They're typing as quickly as the producers are hammering on them.
Mm-hmm.
Da-da-da-da. Off it goes. And I'll go, really? I don't think, or this doesn't really match with that.
Right. The reference doesn't match to the description. We get
Right.
that every day.
Right.
Multiple
right.
times a day.
Right. Yeah.
And then we want to come up with 3 things to reference for our members so that they don't all send something that sounds just like that one. And
Well, that's another dangerous thing,
yeah.
because I will get music that's so dead on
Yeah.
that if I were to put it out, I'd be sued.
Right.
And that is a huge faux pas. That's another piece of this writing puzzle that's a very difficult part of the craft.
How do you cop the vibe without stealing the song or being too on the nose?
Exactly. Blurred lines, they went a little far.
Yeah.
Or at least the courts thought so.
Yeah.
Bruno Mars, Uptown Funk, kind of brings back some memories for me.
Yep.
But, he hasn't been sued, and that's, I'm not looking for people to be sued, but I guess my point is that everybody's referencing everybody.
No, it happened back in the 60s and 70s. Come on, how many people were spawned by Bo Diddley's sound?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It happens. And somebody once told me, Tommy Dowd, famous record producer, once said to me, everybody steals, just make sure you steal from the best. And I'm not saying that anybody should steal, but an amalgamation. You are who you listen to.
It's true.
And so if you listen to high quality artists and you've got, this guy's guitar vibe and somebody else's bass vibe
Right.
and somebody else's vocal approach, then it's yours because it's an amalgamation of all those things. It's not a clone thereof.
And there's very few that I've found that are able to, what's the word I want? Be able to wear a lot of different hats.
Yeah.
There are a handful, and you and I both know who they are,
Yep.
that can. And then I've noticed that there's some people that their forte just is their forte. And I always encourage writers to do what you love.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're a singer-songwriter, don't do hip-hop. I mean, it's just, don't go there. I mean, I shouldn't say that. Try anything, be an artist, but, you know what you're good at, and that's generally what's going to make you money, I think. It's going to make you succeed.
One of the questions I had, I think we've already covered, was how important is it for musicians that you deal with to not only make great music, but have a good understanding of how the music can be used. And we've touched on that as far as, a CSI use or something, but that's something that I preach to people. They always think in terms, and of course this is a gross generalization, they meaning musicians, frequently think in terms of my music.
Mm-hmm.
And I encourage them to think of that show or these shows. Put yourself in the shoes of the user, not of the creator, and you'll probably hit the target more often just by simply watching a show, which you recommended earlier.
That's a very difficult thing.
What does CSI generally use? Well, they use procedural music whenever they're looking through a microscope at a hair. Shows have a sonic signature.
Shows have a sonic signature, and these shows aren't. It's not brain surgery here.
Right.
They'll something's a success. Another show comes up. It's another version of that show that was a success. I mean, how many Law and Orders have we had? So
way too many.
Well, hey, I do good business with them. Keep on going, guys.
Go, Dick Wolf.
I think, my God, what season is Law and Order SVU is like 16th season.
And 8 used to be like a record holding.
We're doing great business with that show. Yeah, really good business. So I want them to keep going. But point being is, there are these trends, and they don't really, it's the bad guy going down the dark alley.
Yeah.
What kind of music do you think they're going to be playing? It won't be something heartfelt, most likely. So there's certain things that I would highly recommend writers pay attention to the medium that you're trying to make a living at. I mean, otherwise, I've talked to so many writers and I say, well, do you watch television? No, I don't watch that show, or I don't watch this, or I don't. I'm like,
do they say that because they're trying to be cool?
I think they're saying it because they really mean it.
Wow. Okay, that's like saying I want to build boats, but I never go to the marina.
That is so. Well, and I scratch my head, truthfully, because I mean, this is a business, and if that's where you want to make a living at this, then you learn your craft, and part of learning the craft is,
watching what the end users use.
Exactly. I'll talk to them about the radio. Are you paying attention to what's on the radio?
Oh, I hate what's on radio today. I can't listen to it. We hear that all the time.
Well, then your music will reflect that. And, I had a guy send me some hip-hop tracks, maybe a week or two ago. And I don't know how the heck he found me. And I listened to it, and it was, and, we have this conversation. It was wallpaper.
Mm-hmm.
It was anybody's, any day of the week hip-hop tracks. And that's not really what I do. I mean, there's a million people that do it, and they're making money doing it.
And reality,
and God bless them.
Right, reality shows use a lot of that.
Yeah. Although I'm noticing more and more they really do want cutting edge stuff.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, yes, there is that place, and it's fine, But anyway, so I shot him back an email. I said, well, thank you so much. It's not really right for my clients or my catalog. I said, but thanks for reaching out to Black Toast as a source for getting your music heard. And he shot me this thing back. Well, can you tell me why? And I said, well, and I try and respond to writers because I'm a writer.
Yeah.
And I know what it's like to be on the other side of the page. And I said, well, I said, really I said, listen to the radio. I said, if it's on the radio, you can bet I've been asked for it.
Mm-hmm.
If it's been on country radio, hip-hop radio, pop radio, if it's been on, someone has reached out to me for something in that style, guaranteed. And his response to me was, all right, well, when you want something that isn't unique and what did he say? And I just kind of scratched my head. I went, wow, I took the second to kind of respond to him, and his stuff was far from unique.
Yeah.
And because it's on the radio, I mean, there's some very unique things on the radio.
I see people in chat rooms or on comments at the end of blogs saying, don't join Taxi unless your music is really commercial. And
Commercial is a pretty broad brushstroke.
I know, but they've convinced other people out there, that everything's got to be commercial, which is some of the time that's absolutely true. But a lot of listings that we run, like I think today we put out just drum. Somebody wanted for an HBO show just drums.
Sure.
Just
Absolutely.
it doesn't matter if they're African drums or jazz drums or they primarily wanted ethnic drums, I think. But we get listings like that aren't commercial radio hit type listings.
Well, you had Birdman and Whiplash come out, and
Yeah,
that spurred
did a lot for jazz drumming.
spurred on a real interesting chase.
Yeah,
And it made a lot of sense to me because if you're cutting promo and you're cutting trailers, there's zero problem with dialogue. If the drums are moving along, you're creating action, you're creating intrigue, and there's nothing to interrupt dialogue.
right. And you don't have to worry about a conflict with dialogue with the lyric. Yeah,
It makes a lot of sense to me, and I've been building that catalog as well.
well, run a listing with us.
There you go. See, jazz drummers out there.
Oh, you're going to get inundated now. I'd be so sorry you said that. Let's see. Let's talk about taxi members. We hear this from members, and it goes on in the outside world, not just with taxi members, I'm sure, but people who get their music into a catalog and then 90 days to 6 months later are complaining, I can't believe I signed with this catalog and nothing is happening yet.
Sure.
Explain why it takes a while. So obviously some music is never going to get used.
Well,
Right.
and unfortunately, in the world that's going on right now, it may have been used in those 3 months, and they wouldn't know it because possibly I didn't even know it.
You haven't seen a cue sheet yet.
Well,
Orderly
and
from
I
the
mean,
MIRAS.
I won't mention companies or names, but there are some people I'm waiting 9 months,
Mm-hmm.
and then all of a sudden, and I'll be pitching and talking about working and working and working, feel like you're working for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
You're pitching and pitching and pitching these 50 pitches a month that I'm talking about that could be an entire episode, which could be, for this character, 10 pieces of music, this character, 10. I mean, it adds up exponentially.
Mm-hmm.
For a movie that's looking for 4 scenes and they need music, and each of those 4 scenes, I might put 10 options for each of those 4 scenes. And that's 40 pieces of music that we listen to each piece of music and hand select.
And that's just you. They could reach out to 10 other libraries that are also doing the same thing. Shows how the workload on their end.
Exactly. So you send these pitches, and they're going out steadily, constantly. The music that's going out of our facility on a daily basis is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't know a lot of times because the supervisors are way too busy to call you and go or email you and go, hey, this is great. I mean, I get those emails and I really appreciate them. I let them know I do.
Yeah.
But many times, and you know what? I had somebody reach out to me 2 weeks ago and they were like, hey, I was looking at, was it TuneFind? And saw a piece of my music was used on X show. Where's my money?
Why haven't you told me yet?
Yeah, right. And I shot back to him. I said, well, the reason you haven't seen your money is because I know it's been 9 months, but I haven't seen mine either. I said, we haven't been paid. I said, as soon as we get paid, you'll get paid. I mean, it's the nature of things.
Right.
And it is a patience game. It's a big patience game.
It's a bumper sticker underneath the cab over there. Write, submit, forget, and repeat.
Basically.
Yeah.
Basically.
That's a bumper sticker one of our members created because that's the mantra.
It really
Don't
is.
sit there waiting for the phone to ring. Just keep creating. Here's what happens. People join Taxi. They submit their music. They get forwarded. They get forwarded to you or any of the other companies that we
Right.
work with. And sometimes they get stuff picked up. Whether they do or they don't. They get stuff forwarded and or picked up. And then nothing happens and they get discouraged. They put their tail between their legs. They drop out of Taxi. They don't make any new music because they're upset by this experience.
Right.
And then 2 years later, they get a check for $2,200 going, holy crap, who knew? How sad is it that for 2 years they didn't make any music or pitch it because of one thing they didn't hear back about?
It's very true. It's very, very true. But you know what? I understand it.
Mm-hmm.
I do understand it.
You're a composer.
I'm a writer.
You're them.
And for many, many years, I mean, I still have music in my catalog that I'm a writer on,
Mm-hmm.
that I think is some of the best things I've ever written, that haven't seen the light of day.
Do you still play?
I do.
I mean,
Not
do-
out. I don't play
Do you
out
have like
anymore.
jam nights with friends and stuff? Like, go to
No,
studios,
no,
or
but
is
you
it all-
know, it's thoughts been crossing my mind again. Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, my goodness, there was so many years that's all I did. I mean, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
You know, and I was very blessed to have known some of the best musicians in Los Angeles for a great many years, and that's all we did, pretty much 7 days a week. We're meeting over at Brad's house, we're meeting over at Greg's house, we're meeting, you know, and just play. Yeah, that was a great period of time. You know, it's funny. This company just sort of, like I say, it sort of happened, and I'm just one of those people that tends to focus on the task at hand. So once this sort of started happening, now this is
Right.
my focus, and you know. I've been doing this a while now. I'm kind of trying to give some of this focus and what I've learned off to some of these other people because I want them to succeed.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's a lot of amazing talent out there, a ton of amazing talent. Every day I'm like blown.
I couldn't agree more. What frustrates me is that they can be creatively talented but won't take time to learn the business, and that can blow opportunities. It will blow opportunities for them.
That is probably one of the biggest problems.
Yeah, making the mistake of submitting music that's already been signed to an exclusive catalog. That's a mistake that could land you on somebody's blacklist. You were pretty understanding. The guy didn't do it with any malice or ill intent. It all worked out great. But that stuff happens all day long, all over the industry,
and I have dropped writers
because of that. Yeah.
Well, because of many, many things. This is a great mantra.
Yeah.
You know, if it's
write, submit, forget, repeat.
Right. It's very difficult to, again, no one without having this camera in my office watching me on a daily basis, watching the amount of work that's going on to try and get this music heard and placed. I mean, I turn to my assistant all the time, and I get very frustrated when I've got some absolutely amazing taxi music in my catalog, and I keep pitching it and pitching it. This is perfect, perfect, perfect. And it's like crickets out there.
Yeah.
So you guys hopefully you'll know, we're working your stuff. It's just, there's so many cooks in every kitchen.
I've got to play you something. Hopefully it's sitting very close by.
The stack.
Yes, we all have it.
Wow, you went right to it.
Okay. We had a request. This one might have hit your desk as well. And the request was for Led Zeppelin, a modern take on Led Zeppelin.
Okay.
And the artist, the band has to be from Spain. All right, fair enough.
The band has to be from
to be from Spain.
Now, do they have to be from Spain for a because they have to hire?
Yeah, like Canadian content laws or something like that. So yeah, they needed an artist from Spain.
Didn't have to be Spanish language.
Right.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, they wanted English, but the artist had to be from Spain and it had to sound like a modern version of Led Zeppelin, and this is what we sent. Hopefully I got the right track. Oops.
Heaven's running my head, what's running your spin? Heaven's running your head, smoking hit the ceiling. Nothing will be for real, till we meet the unreal. Nothing will be for real, come along to play our part.
You nailed it. Everyone's so perfect.
No one's here with novice.
And it was for an action scene.
Saw him twice in 1976.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm so jealous.
Bono.
Okay, so we sent this over.
Good call.
Thank you. I laughed to the staff. I said, we're the only people on the planet
Yeah.
that are going to send the right thing for this. Didn't make it into the movie. But you know what it did do? Is it got that music supervisor to trust us enough to add us to her search list. So now we get everything that she's looking
That's
for.
right.
Because I earned her respect with a good pitch. For
Right.
some reason, the producer probably said, I just don't like the guy's voice, or it doesn't work with the picture.
Sure. Could have been a tempo, could have been anything.
Yeah, but come on. Who else would send something?
Well, and that's exactly what we deal with every day.
Yeah.
You think you're pitching the spot on thing for what they're looking for, and that's a weird listening. Spanish.
Yeah, I don't even think we ran that one as a listing because they needed it an hour. We knew that nobody on the planet would
Someone
have it.
saw Zeppelin in '99.
You sure it wasn't a Madame Tussauds?
That's fine.
All right, let's listen to another piece of music. This one is called. This one's called Tango.
Whoop.
That was an edit point. No, it's so. All right. I'm thinking somebody reads our listings and sees that we say, please include easy edit points and a button or stinger ending. And they thought that was an easy edit point. I'll give them that.
That was an edit. Done.
Helen Keller could have edited
That's
that.
right, huh? Well, you know, this kind of music's an interesting one for me and my company.
Yeah.
This is not necessarily where my forte is.
Do you get requests for stuff like this, but you choose not to pitch to it? Or do people generally come to you for songs that sound more radio-oriented? Or
The closest I would say a request that would come across our desk for anything that this might work for would be we got a request for Buddha Bar music.
Okay.
You know, it's
Yeah.
sort of in that sort of trip hop. You know, this might have been too energetic for some of the pitches that in that space that we were looking for because
it's kind of missing the purpleness. And I know you and I would both laugh when somebody says, give me something
there wasn't
purple.
enough pink in that.
But you know what I mean? You know, satin sheets and purple, the romantic.
Well, the Buddha Bar, you know, thing, this just happens to be a hip club thing that is a recurring place on this particular show. So there will be quite a bit of this music being used.
Yeah.
And I pitched quite a bit because they needed a body of work. This is one of those pitches.
Right.
It's going to be a recurring place.
It's a place the cast goes to in almost every episode.
Exactly.
Right.
So we sent a lot of music, probably because of the drums being as active.
Yeah.
There might be a few where that would work, but it wouldn't be the first thing I would think of, you know. But the swelling synths, you know, all that fits in the beat. So where else that would live? There's multiple places that would live.
What about the rest that was in there that was clearly intended to be an easy edit point, but probably taken?
I thought your CD player just stopped.
I did too. I looked down and saw the numbers still going. I went, oh, because I thought my battery had died. So that's taking it to an extreme and making it undesirable. So that guy should tighten those up.
I would say that would kill it.
Yeah.
That would absolutely, for me, that would absolutely kill it.
I think it would for anybody.
Because I'd call them and go, your master's flawed.
Right.
And they'd say, what are you talking about? And maybe they did it on purpose, and maybe when they were doing a transfer.
But it was rhythmic, wasn't it?
Well, it stopped in time.
Yeah.
And it started in time.
Right. So
that could have been a fluke. I don't know.
Just if you're watching the show, and I hope you are, just know that we love you. We're trying to help you.
Yes.
And that if those were intended to be easy edit points, they were way too easy. Like I said, those were Helen Keller easy. So the edit points just mean that they're good, clean beats to cut on. Places that are obviously easy. You know what? Here's the good way to judge. If you can see it in the waveform.
Absolutely.
Then, because that's what super editors do that. I've been told that by numerous editors that they will look at a waveform before they even hit the play button.
Absolutely.
To see if something is editable because, let's say they're cutting quick cut sports TV and they need something with a lot of edit points on it. They'll just look and they know. If it's too legato looking.
Well, any library that's worth its salt has their catalog. It's all digital. It's all meta tagged, writer publisher information. Everything is embedded in the tracks that go out to these companies. The companies on the end, they need everything to be, generally, the new trend is everything being sound minored. I don't know if you're familiar with sound miner. So
Yeah.
it needs to be sound minored. When they drop that in, what all the editors are saying is the waveform. When it comes
SoundMiner
up-
is the most commonly used program that libraries use and editors use to
It's very common.
Yeah.
Thankfully, it's kind of narrowing down. There was a period of time, again, you talk about us and how much work we do behind the scenes.
Yeah.
There was a period where I want to say there were like 5 different companies that
Trying
we
to
had to get our catalog to fit into their formatting. So if you wanted to be on an NBC server, you had to be in this with this company. And now they're down to like 4. But not only that, then you also have to get your music into Waveform, AIF form, 320 MP3s, 160 MP3s. Then you got to get it to them in their format in all those flavors.
So just understand that if you've got, let's say, the average boutique library has between 3,000 and 10,000 tracks.
Sure.
That's a good range, right?
Sure.
I'm not talking about like APM that might have 250,000 or 500,000.
Sure.
The average small guy has 3,000 to 10,000. And if you've got to do all that processing for 3,000 to 10,000, that's just insane.
That's a lot of number crunching.
Yeah. Why do you get half the money? Now I know why.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's a funny thing, and being a songwriter, I know how long it takes to write a song.
Right.
And if you couldn't imagine pitching how many more hours go into getting that song used, then not always, but largely yes.
Yeah.
Than actually creating and that's not to belittle the creation of the music at all.
No, it's just equally as work intensive.
There's a
earn
lot
your
of
money.
hours. There's a lot of hours that go into it, absolutely. And my day never ends. One of the things that
Don't I know? Because we'll be trading emails at 11 o'clock at night,
Exactly.
joking with each other. Why are we so sick that we're still working at 11
exactly.
o'clock at night?
But you know what the beauty is my clients know that I'm looking at my emails at 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And I've had many, many, many times where I've hit the home run for somebody who's like, I'm on a dub stage now.
Mm-hmm.
What can you get me?
And you know who else knows that we're working at 11 o'clock at night? Amy and Deb.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And we're still married.
Yes. Thankfully, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Did we already talk about the situation I had with the member? I can't remember if we talked about that off camera or on camera, but the guy complained that that the listing was a misrepresentation because of the library size. We talked about that off camera.
We talked about it off camera, yeah.
Did we talk about not on camera? yet,
Not
right?
on camera.
All right, I want to talk about this, and this is not in any way, shape, or form to put this gentleman down, because we actually ended the conversation on a very nice note. But this is how I'm always telling you guys, don't go to a music attorney unless your music attorney is one of the 2 music attorneys walking the face of the earth that understands the independent library business and independent musicians getting their music placed in film and TV. So the other day, one of my staff members gets a call from a gentleman he said was nice and professional and didn't, blow his cool or anything. But this guy represents his daughter, and he was upset with the fact that a song that he sent in for her was sent to a library in on another continent. And in our listing, it said that this library had distribution through a large international company, and that the quote in our database, he feels the listing was misrepresented and threatened to file a lawsuit against us, but yet he doesn't want a refund. So I called this gentleman. He called me back the next day, and he was upset, but he was civil and he was nice. And in the end, we ended up, figuratively hugging each other over the phone because he got it. But he's well connected in Canada with some of the old guard music industry, and he had showed them the contract that was offered to his daughter for her song, and the music library wanted 100% of the music publishing for no money up front. And he ran it by a couple of big music attorneys, and they went, "Oh my God, I would never sign that." And they wanted it in perpetuity, meaning forever. Oh my God, I would never sign that. And they showed it to a couple of people, I believe one from Universal Canada and one from whatever other company. And they were all like, that company, Taxi, and that library are trying to rip you off. And the gentleman was nice enough that he gave me, 10 minutes to explain to him, look, this is the real world of the people who are out there humping it, the Bob Mayers of the world. They're getting stuff placed in TV shows and films every day and not working with Beyonce or Ariana Grande. They're working with people like you. That's the norm now, right?
That's a pretty standard library deal. I mean, anything under the sun is happening.
Yeah.
And contracts, in my experience, anything can be written. It's whatever
Right.
two people agree upon as far as doing business. But this is a trend.
But most libraries won't negotiate unless they really want something because they have a giant hole in their catalog and this person happens to be exceedingly good. Right?
That is true. I mean, I tend to stick pretty close to, in fact, I stick very close to my way of doing business, largely because I also, in honor to the people I've already signed,
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to be doing like cool little this or this little carving of a deal for
And
this
how do you
person.
track it all, too? Because you need a certain amount of uniformity.
I've got a database that would boggle your mind. Yeah. So every deal that
I know, because I sent you the guy who built it.
Yes, and he's very good. Every bit of every deal that I do is earmarked in such a minutia way.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
It is, because then every contract that's signed is scanned, and I can view it with a click.
Nice.
So and this is where it's very important for people to know what the heck they're signing,
Mm-hmm.
and know what they're doing. Because if someone calls me on something, I did this largely because, what I'm doing is I'm also entering into agreements. When NBC comes to me and they go, you warrant that you have the right to control this and get this play, and you can sign off on behalf of this song, I better be able to sign off on behalf of the song.
Yeah.
So every little piece of this puzzle, the I's have to be dotted and the T's have to be crossed. It's business. Yes, it's music, but it's business.
Yeah.
And so, this sort of a thing is a standard deal these days, and it has been for many, many years. The fact that Universal or any of these large publishers would be snuffing their nose at it, well, of course, because,
Right.
they're the majors, and they don't want people that are the small guys. You are a needle in their side.
Well, and you guys, meaning all libraries, film, TV publishers that are smaller indie companies, that range from one person up to 10 people, in aggregate probably represent as much churning of cash, and income as the four big ones do in their world. So because they wouldn't do these deals.
You're right. You're absolutely right. It's an interesting thing what's going on. I mean, you mentioned Mark Ferrari. I mean, most at Barbara Jordan and all these people over the years, I'm still standing. I haven't sold. I'm still hanging in there. But most of the people that I've grown up and been in business in competition with for all these years, most of them have been bought up.
And some of them by Universal. By the mothership or the Death Star.
Jingle Punks was just bought by the company that wrote.
Right, that it's referenced in that.
That's right,
yeah.
exactly.
Right.
$18 million purchase. So,
yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. It's really, really crazy. So all the boutique guys are getting swallowed up, So is it the same? No, I come from this thing where there's enough business for everybody out there. But what's happening is you've got three majors, and those three majors are buying up all the little me's because they want us off the playing field.
But then they ultimately won't be able to come in and present big ticket prices because the networks and the shows aren't going to pay those prices. They can try and monopolize it, but there's always going to be that taxi member or you or somebody who's a songwriter, composer, whatever, that will come in less expensively.
Well, it's that, and it's also, I think, largely what we provide to our clients that a major can't is service. Meaning that, when you're looking at, $250,000 copyrights,
Right.
And they're looking for this piece of music for this scene, someone better know that $250,000 copyrights.
Which would be impossible.
Pretty darn near impossible.
Even with the good search engine, you need somebody that's been there for 10 years that's going to know the 10%, the 25,000 that work.
But those companies have let those people go.
Yeah. Because they're too expensive.
Because they're too expensive. They've been around too long. So that's where I think I offer you guys and my clients a service that I think the majors can't offer, which is, I talk to the writers.
Yeah.
I don't think those big companies get on the phone and say, well, I think your vocal's too hot to the guitar, and if you had, they don't do what you do.
Right.
They're not putting on songwriter forums.
They're not educating people, and frankly, the reason we educate people is self-serving. The smarter they are, the better the music is they're going to pitch, the more deals they're going to sign, which is going to make people want to be part of Taxi. So everybody wins in that scenario. I mean, we don't do it purely for our own reasons, obviously, but
no, it's win-win business. I mean, you guys make money, we make money, everybody makes money. You get to make music, it gets out there, and I think that's just it's not going anywhere.
Why is it that so few music attorneys understand our world? I've really only met two who really understand the nature of a contract you would offer, or Crucial would offer, or any of the companies that aren't the mothership size $250,000 copyright catalogs, or they might not even understand theirs. Why is it that that music attorneys haven't moved into specializing in that and having just like, give me $150 and I'll review that contract? Because if they review the contract once from you, chances are that writer's going to sign 5 pieces or 10 pieces over some period of time with you. So they're only paying that $150 the first time.
Right. Well, I remember when I first started as a writer, I couldn't afford those attorneys. $500 an hour. There's just no way. And you're talking with an attorney at $500 an hour. You send them the contract that was sent to you. Then they get to it when they can, and then they get back to you, and then you respond to them. It's still $500 an hour, and you're on the clock.
And they're doing the, oh my God, I would never sign that, because that's how they turn it into more hours.
Exactly. So when I was starting out, I found attorneys through friends that weren't $500 an hour. They're out there, and they're good, and they're good attorneys. You just need to find them.
Yeah.
And find one. And I would love it when writers go, I want my attorney to look at the contract. I'm ecstatic. It's like, great, because now I know someone's actually informing you, that what you're signing is A, B, and C. So when you engage in business with me, now we're on the same page. You know what I'm up to. I know what you're up to. Boom, we're done.
That gave me a great idea. Red Rally panel. Music library contracts.
Woo!
101.
There you go.
Making a note. Be right with you guys.
No, that would actually be a very, very good. And, I think what's interesting is there's a lot of things in a contract that, like you say, words like perpetuity and this and that, that are just sort of foreign language to people that aren't in the business all the time.
Explain, perpetuity means it's in there forever. And as I explained, tell me if I'm right or wrong. I explained to this guy, the reason people want stuff in perpetuity is because they distribute it very often on drives nowadays with their entire catalog or parts of their catalog, and it goes out there and it's out there in the world. So if it's a 2-year, 3-year, 5-year reversion, when the thing reverts, it's still out there on those drives. And the gentleman said, well, why can't they just let those companies know to take it off the drive?
Sure.
And I said, because you can't call 300 or 500 or 1,000 different people that now have your drive and say, okay, today we're going to take off number 21, number 438, number 1036.
It gets deeper than that, which, and again, being in the business for so long, and it's been good for me, but what you end up having is people working at Warner Brothers, and they build a folder of music over the years that they love from Black Toast Music or from Crucial or from whoever. And, I'm leaving Warner Brothers. Today's my last day. I'm headed over to this film company. Well, you know what's great? They tend to take those folders of the music they like.
Yeah, because that's their go-to stuff. Sure.
Right. And I've had editors that were at MTV that ended up, now they're over at this place or that place. And so people, you can't just even go back to the original people you sent a drive to, because that music is just like, now it's just moving,
Yeah.
And there's a real upside to that, because, oh my goodness, I mean, if because of doing clean business and this and that, people remember you, and they go from an MTV, I was working on this show back in the 90s, and now I'm on this show, or on this film, and I recommend Bob. I mean, that's how this.
So make it easy and send the right stuff.
Exactly. That's how I just ended up doing a bunch of business with the show, The Hustlers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 10 episodes, wallpapered with Black Toast music.
And yeah, you got one episode was almost all one Taxi member, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, they latched onto a few of them.
Yeah.
Yes, they latched onto a few of them, and yes.
Our mutual friend whose initials
Yes.
are PO.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
I remember that.
Yeah, and which was great. That connection came from an editor that came from somewhere else.
Gotta love the editors who are now, in many cases, as active in putting music in shows as supervisors.
I can name many of them.
Yeah.
And now they're being they're being leaned on to be music supervisors because the show or a network doesn't want to hire a music supervisor.
Right.
So those editors remember you from, I remember you from this show and this show. And those editors keep moving on and on and on and on, and they take their drives with them. So yeah, to answer your point, it's very difficult to pull it
anything
back.
Yeah.
I mean, not only that, but imagine you love this body of work, this writer, and you're plugging it, and you're plugging it, and you're plugging it, and you're plugging it, and you're going, man, 3 years you're working this catalog, and you're going, I can't believe it. It reverts. And then it was on somebody's drive,
And it gets
and
used.
it blows up.
Yeah, and they wouldn't even know who to contact. At that point, they're going to contact you. Oh, can you turn me on? Tell me how to get in touch with the
Right.
writer. And now you get nothing, even though that you worked it for 3 years.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's where I kind of go, again, I know what we put into getting the music used, and that's where I go, you know what? Whatever we engage in, let's engage in it 50-50.
Mhm.
And, you're in it, I'm in it, I'm not, these writers aren't the writers aren't exclusive to me,
Right, just that material.
just the song. So I'm like, hey, just like, again, it's coming back to business. I look at songs creatively, mixes, all of that's there, but they're also assets for all you guys. These are assets. These are things, not unlike, I hate to say it, but like the stock market. I mean,
Yeah.
so you have all these shares, and I encourage them to diversify. I say, don't just go with me. You should be with me. You should be with this person. And I know who the good people are.
And different music goes with different catalogs. You'll do better with a singer-songwriter, let's say, but
Possibly.
if that writer also does metal, there may be another catalog that's got
Absolutely.
a really good relationship with a show that uses metal more frequently.
And I have referred people to other catalogs.
Right, because they would do better there.
Because they'll do better there.
And
I hope
hopefully
people
they would
succeed.
reciprocate and do that for you.
Well, I hope. We'll see.
The good ones would. I mean, there are a few mentions out there.
There are a few out there. Yes.
Okay, let's play another song or track. This one is called If I Could. Oops.
I'm reading these comments flying by.
Yeah, we're going to go to viewer questions in a moment, so start getting them ready.
I'm watching these.
Crack a smile.
Take it back to the top.
The way you move, girl, I can't help but crack a smile. You play that jukebox like it's going out of style. It's getting late and you just ordered one more beer. I should probably get on home, but I am just not thinking clear. You may think I'm just not worth it, but it couldn't hurt to try. And we better do it soon while we still have got the time. You may think I'm just a bum who's living off his daddy's time, but I'd give it all away if I could say that you are mine. There's no surprises, see this happens every time. Your love is like a snake and you are wrapped around my mind.
Good line.
Mm-hmm.
And you've given me your body and you've given me your time. Then you took them both away like you were running from a crime. You may think I'm just not worth it, but it couldn't hurt to try. And we better do it soon always still I've got the time. You may think I'm just a bum who's living off his daddy's time, but I'd give it all away if I could say that you are mine. And I don't regret a single thing that I said. It may have been too soon, but something brought me to you. And I don't expect you to come on crawling back. I wish that I could play it cool, but I'm still waiting for you. I think I'm just not worth it, but I couldn't hurt to try.
All right, that was called "If I Could."
It was a great song, great lyrics. That's it. This is an interesting area right now, the singer-songwriter area. It is. Oh, how am I going to say this? It's such a flooded market.
Mm-hmm.
It's
2 years ago, people couldn't get enough of it
exactly.
from us, and all of a sudden we've seen listings for that dry up. It'll come back because the stuff they had will be out of style in another year or two.
You showed me a question about great song not getting used.
Right. People. The question was, explain why a great song might not be usable in film and TV, no matter how great it is.
This one starts to lean into that. It made me think of that question.
Okay.
And I got to say, there's nothing I hate more than responding to a writer, the song is too good. And I send those back. You know, it's terrible, but
what's too good?
Well, there's some really amazing songwriters out there that the lyrics are just phenomenal. But how do I say this? If it's a lyric-driven song, mm-hmm. where the lyrics almost demand your attention,
they tell a story of their own that could conflict with the script or get in the way of the dialogue.
Producers will look at it that way. You're
mm-hmm.
fighting with my dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
Unless it's a montage scene where it carries
right.
the story.
It finishes the story.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And those moments definitely happen, and I've been very blessed to have some amazing montage moments. In fact, I just, speaking of P.O., he just got a great one on Ray Donovan. But montage, boom, no dialogue at all, full-on music, just stuff is happening. Those moments are awesome.
Yeah.
And at that point, you go, that's great. They're further and far between. And when I'm signing stuff, especially when I'm thinking perpetuity,
mm-hmm.
I could gobble up people's material and just go, yeah, I love this song, and then sign it. But then I'm going to have, they're going to be one of those writers that's going to be going, possibly a year or two later, you sign my song and I'm not getting any uses.
And then they're going to go on a certain website and they're going to badmouth you.
Well, maybe.
The website I'm talking about where people go in and rate libraries.
I've heard of this. I actually have never checked it out.
Okay, well, the problem is with that site is that the libraries that get the 5-star ratings are the ones that will take anything because people love them because they love me.
Right.
And the ones that are more discerning
got it.
Get lower.
I'm probably on the lower rating. I'm pretty discerning. And you know what? And this is a case where I would think long and hard before I would sign a song like that. And it kills me. If I was just signing songs because it's what I want to listen to,
mm-hmm.
it would be a completely different world. But I am signing things based on my knowledge of what the people on the other end of the table are. Now, I'm not saying that this wouldn't get a placement.
Right.
A
lower probability because it's a little too smart.
Maybe. God, it sounds awful. I hate to say it that way, but kind of.
Well, and I don't mean smart is bad. It makes smart is less usable. It's not like, oh, that guy's very intelligent, so he's a jerk, or he's too lofty for us. It's too lofty for the script.
It's a little more. It's interesting. It's very specific. It's very, very specific. I mean, that leaned more on the universal side of things lyrically.
Mm-hmm. I was listening to it because it was teetering.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it did teeter a little bit because he was talking about because what is it? I lived off my daddy's.
Yeah.
And,
got a little personal.
Right, and so that gets a little focused. But what the overall sense was just a heartfelt, very heartfelt song, and the instrumentation and the production kept it moving. It ebbed and flowed. It built. It had the right instrumentation.
Current indie lo-fi vibe.
A lot going on.
So I would take this if I were that writer and hearing what you're saying, and I completely agree with you. And I would take that thing and throw an extra guitar, mandolin, and a harmonica on there and turn it into an instrumental track, and it would get used like crazy.
Very possibly. My recommendation would be put it out on a record and start playing live.
Yeah.
If you have to make your choices. I mean, I've always said to writers, I said, you can be this artist and go out and be the artist. I said, but if you're coming to me and my world, what I do is I'm placing things over here into this marketplace. So that's where paying attention to the marketplace is very important. I've had Nashville writers reach out to me, and you want to talk lyric writing? These people
They're
are
the best.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
They're the gold standard.
Yeah, and your every line is just gold, 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 gold. Everything matches. The story just keeps building perfectly.
Yep.
You're going, oh my God, this is great. I'll never get this used.
Because it tells a story. And they describe the crack in the vase when you walk through the door.
So I'm of the opinion that, there's no reason you can't do this and have your artist world.
Right.
And then do this.
Right.
And monetize your talent.
They're not mutually exclusive.
They're not mutually.
Thank you. How many times have I said that on the show, ladies and gentlemen? You know what? Wouldn't you rather be doing the stuff you can monetize in film and TV for your day job, 8 or 10 or 12 hours a day, and then still do the artist-driven stuff? Just pretend that rather than working at the Gap or digging ditches or being an accountant or whatever, music is your day gig. Film and TV music is your day gig. And let that song that we just heard, the artistic side of you, be your night gig.
And I am not saying that would not be licensable.
Just a lesser chance.
In my world.
I would agree. Very high quality. Okay, let's take some questions from you guys. And while I'm going to go warm up the air conditioner because my nose is actually getting cold. That time of day, every day when the sun goes down behind that mountain, and the air conditioner still keeps pumping it out in here. It's like ice.
This part of town is like 10 degrees warmer.
Yeah, you should try Woodland Hills.
Yeah, it's bad.
And we're 8 degrees cooler than Woodland Hills, but we're in Calabasas, so
Catch
we're
that
cool.
little breeze.
Yeah, from Malibu. That's right.
Exactly.
Okay.
Oh, see, I hate that. No, don't dumb it down, guys. Don't dumb it down.
No, just make it more available by not putting too much detail in the story.
Yeah, it's a very difficult thing. This conversation is a very difficult conversation because there's ways to be intelligent and be very valid in this world, in this idiom. And there are certain writers, which I have signed, that are very, very good at it. And many taxi writers that are very, very good at it. I hate to hear dumb it down. Maybe, what's the better way to say it? It's not, what do we say?
Scott Hansen says, does Michael buy you dinner after the show or do you have to Dutch treat? I'm buying him dinner, you must know.
Metadata in submissions, not necessarily, guys.
Only if you reach out to him and say, I want it, then you're going to ask them for metadata, right?
Yeah, I tend to ask people for what they were thinking when they were writing. What were they emulating? What were they thinking, this is pop rock, whether it's alternative rock, whether it's indie, punk, garage.
How often do you find that they're right? Because I find that most people don't know what they've created.
That is largely what I find.
Okay.
But I don't stop asking because there are some that are really good at it. Really, really good at it. And so that takes, a little more work off of my table. And it also helps me understand what they were thinking when they wrote something.
We have this issue with screeners. We have screeners who have excellent ears, have incredible, impeccable resumes that anybody would be impressed by. But in the end, they may not be able to express themselves. Just like a songwriter can't get their genre right.
Mm-hmm.
A screener can't always express what they're feeling about a song when they're trying to give feedback. So it's really hard for us to find people that can do both.
It's a challenge.
Okay.
This is art. This is art. We are painting. What?
Who can a lonely writer go to pitch their songs that were sung by other singers?
Say that again?
Who can a lowly writer go to pitch their songs that were sung by other singers? As long as you've got to work for hire with them, you can pitch it. They've got to give you permission, right, to control the master.
Well, if you're writing songs and another singer wants to sing your song, there's nothing to stop them from doing that. And if you're the writer and someone else sang your song, you're still the writer. You're, as far as I'm concerned, the copyright owner. Mm-hmm. You don't own that master that the other singer did. But I mean, I've been contacted by people that have seen my stuff on television, and they've wanted to record one of my songs that I've written that they heard on some TV show and put it on their album. I can't tell you how many times that's happened.
Wow.
Oh yeah, that's crazy.
That's cool. They track you down.
Well, the internet, it's kind of funny. I get worried about the dumbing down conversation. Please don't dumb your music down, guys.
How important is it for your writers to stick to submission guidelines?
I would say very important.
No, the gentleman or lady who's saying "chaps, Matty," I do believe. Whoops! I do believe dumbing down is a great name for it. Laughing out loud. It's not dumbing down. It's not. It's making it more accessible. Doesn't mean that it's got to be less intelligent.
Actually, you know what? If you're getting your music, if you can figure out how to get your music licensed and write the music that gets licensed, it's not being dumb. It's actually being smart. And there are some writers that are very, very successful taxi writers. They're not dumb, and they're not dumbing their music down. They're just brilliant at being able to nail what is
making something broad and accessible.
And wanted in the marketplace.
Right.
Which is the point. Dumbing down sounds like making music stupid or writing dumb lyrics, and that is not what I'm at all trying to convey. How important is contact info in metadata? Well, if you want somebody to know who you are, that would be important.
The white-winged dove.
Harry Fox covers mechanical licenses. Well, Harry Fox is now owned by CSAT. I believe that deal went through.
Are there writers that would... We'll slow down together. So the writers that would work with small-time recording studios for the studio to pitch music to be recorded, like the studio acts as the screener almost.
That's a good question. Never heard of that.
It's tough, but then you're acting like Taxi, and trust me, it's a lot easier than it looks, because then you have to have all these things that you do. You have to be held accountable. That's
You know what? This is really interesting. I'm watching this thread. Is there a way for the Taxi members to have a knowledge of the Taxi placements, like what's hitting the home runs?
Well, not enough libraries or members tell us when they get deals.
You guys, that would be such a great piece, because if you guys are Taxi members, you should be letting Michael know what's hitting the home runs, and I'll tell you why. Because if Michael makes that public, if you're able to.
Which we do. When they let us know. We reach out and say, guys, tell us. They do. We put in the newsletter, but it's like 1%.
But then that would inform the writers, these are the members hitting the home runs. which I just said, 300 placements thus far, just
Yeah.
my company this year.
And that was just this year.
And we're what, month 7?
Yeah, so in case you missed that part of the show, Bob's company has placed Taxi member music 300 times just in 2015.
Thus far.
Yeah, thus far in 2015, in 7 months.
So, I mean, I'm guessing it'll double. But the point is if you guys were to see what's getting placed, you could listen to it.
Mm-hmm.
You'd see it's not dumbing down. This music is really good music that's getting placed in these shows. And for these montage pieces, I mean, it better hold its own weight because there's no dialogue going over it.
Yeah.
So that would be an interesting.
I wish these guys would tell us more often. I mean, frankly, our mutual friend doesn't tell me all that often. He does tell me eventually, but sometimes it's, oh, by the way, 4 months ago.
Right, and I need to update you as well. It's very difficult, and I do shoot you those emails every once in a while. Hey, check this out.
And I don't pester you for it because your time is better spent pitching than informing me, frankly, and I've got to respect that.
Right,
that's what you do.
But you know what? If it helps sort of garner, well, this is working. Maybe that's.
Michael, maybe you could put a page in the forums with a list of members who were placed with a link to the song. Well, we've got a success story place where we ask the members to go on and mention their successes. Very few people do it. We've got 50 pages at 26 people a page or something in there, but a very, very, very small percentage of our members actually use the forum.
There's another question. What is the general rule in regard to selling your music on iTunes if it's signed to a library? There's no general rule that we work with that because I sign artists, and we have a different contract that addresses that. I have no problem with somebody having their music on iTunes, and I'm representing it to film, television, and advertising. But that's me, and everyone works different. I don't think there's any standard rule.
Yeah, Michael, why don't you tell people to tell you? I beg.
How can you tell who's done their homework before cold calling your library? Well, nobody cold calls me. If anything, maybe cold email. But if they know who I am, who my clients are, that's a large part of your homework. Because, I have people not even knowing who I do business with, or sending me music that is completely irrelevant to anything I'm having success with.
Everybody in the industry complains about that.
Doing your homework is huge. Again, this is a business. I have to do my homework with the people I'm servicing. I have to know what shows they're on. I can't send them music that has no relation to anything that they're working on. They don't have time for that.
It's a beautiful phrase that sums it all up. Make it easy for the end user.
Absolutely.
Maureen Crow told a great story from the stage last year when I interviewed her as our keynote. And she said that some young lady had hung out waiting for Maureen to finish whatever event she was at. And the young lady walked up to her and said, by the way, I noticed that you went to this school and that you frequently used this kind of music. She knew Maureen's history. And Maureen was so impressed by that she said, come on, let's go grab a cup of coffee.
Right.
And ended up using the girl's stuff.
I'm seeing a bunch of questions about mastering and mixing. Okay, so this has been a huge
I'm gonna go make a
piece of this has been a huge problem for me, unfortunately, where mixes aren't up to snuff. I've had some great material come my way. And the thing that has caused me to not sign it can be a mix or mastering. The fact of the matter is once you've writing the song is one piece, recording the song is another, mixing the song is another. And you know what? You can have this great song that sounds terrible because of a mix, and it'll never ever hit the airwaves. I would say, what you have to do is once again educate yourself on what does hit the airwaves. And the only way to do that is listen to the radio, listen to what is in the marketplace. Even garage band music, for lack of a better way to describe that, even that is generally very well mixed in its own way.
Somebody's asking about, does Taxi still offer custom critiques? Yeah, we do. You can send a song in and get a custom critique. It's not for a listing, but yeah, a lot of people still use that service.
Well, this guy mixes, and then he listens in 2 cars and a crappy MP3 player. Well, you know what? When I was doing my own stuff for, when I was writing for Entertainment Tonight ages ago, and a lot of these other places, before my company became what it is, I had 3 sets of monitors. I had NS10s, and I still have my Westlake audio monitors, which are like the best of the best.
Yeah.
And I had an Ortone.
Right,
Like
which is a
mono,
4-inch box.
because I wanted to know what it sounded like on TV.
Yeah.
Back when a TV was the 4-inch box.
Yeah, and now TV speakers are in a flat screen blowing out the back of the TV.
Right. I mean, I worry. Sometimes I have these people sending me mixes, and I go, "Gosh, what are you listening on?" And I wonder sometimes if they're listening just on their computer. They have no system. When I grew up, everybody had a stereo, and you have your speakers and your set. I don't know if everybody's listening that way anymore.
I think most people have some sort of monitors, but they don't understand that putting a pair of 6-inch 2-ways on a desk up against a wall is going to make the bottom end so false that they're not going to have a real perspective. But they also, I wouldn't recommend dropping 10 grand and doing an acoustic treatment in your room. Just isolate the monitors from the table, move them out from the wall, throw a couple moving blankets underneath your desk so that it absorbs that roly-poly bottom end that sits down there. There's some basic things you can do pretty inexpensively that will dramatically improve your listening environment.
And I'm going to address this. I never answered your question about 16-bit recording. It's acceptable to me. I still like 44/16, but people convert up, convert down. But back to your thing, I encourage people that are asking some of these questions. I hate to say it, but hire a mixing engineer. Actually, I don't hate to say it, because you know what? It keeps the economy going, and mixing engineers are hurting just like everybody else. When you have a home and you got a plumbing problem,
Right.
you can go to fix it yourself. And when you got a roofing problem, you can go to fix it yourself.
I've got one right now, by the way.
Well,
Come on
or
over.
you hire a plumber and you hire a roofer.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to get the pro to do the pro job, and that's always been my motto. I stopped doing my own mixes a long time ago. That doesn't mean I'm not in the room when the mix is happening, because I am.
A lot of people can't afford it.
It's very true. Well, and I made a phone call to you, a week ago?
Yeah.
About this question.
Yep.
I'm trying to, and I've been a little successful at this, which is basically referring some affordable mixing engineers out to some people I know and I trust, and they know me from 20-some years of mixing my music, and they know this world. There's a lot of people out there. There's mixing engineers that are as talented as there's songwriters. And there's some, and the two, I think should meet. And Hans, who's been on some of the Taxi rallies.
Right, Hans Decline. He's a great mastering engineer who does A-list stuff and little, indie schleppers, and does it all great.
And very few know he's a singer as well.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he has sung on probably a half dozen Black Toast.
Wow.
Yeah, crazy, right?
Yeah, he'll be at the Road Rally in November.
But he is an amazing mastering engineer. But that being said, you can only take a bad mix so far. He can't work miracles. Honestly, 24-bit. Yeah, mixing mastering is an art form in itself. What is the name of?
Right, I'm going to track you down and send you my music.
Well, $500 for mixing and mastering. I know you can do better. I'm sorry. I love you, CD baby. Yeah, I'm going to give you this.
How about does left, center, right panning work for film and TV? If you hear something pan like that, do you say no, or go back to the artist for a remix?
You know what? I would say, you know what? Early Beatles, they wouldn't be turning it away because of those hard pans. You know, so if it's musical, do your thing. Do the hard panning. I've done it.
Russell Landwehr, who is a smart member, knows what he's talking about, says the ROI paying a mixing engineer for cues. He's talking about instrumental cues.
Mm-hmm, sure.
Doesn't really make it worth it. We have to become mixing engineers.
It's true.
A great point.
It's really true, and this is what's the nature of the business, and I totally get it. And the sync fees and all the fees are just going down, 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 and it becomes very difficult. Very, very difficult. And I have people sending me, 40 hip hop cues, and all of them need mastering. And if you can get your mixes up, then more power to you. I think it's great. You're right. Everybody's got to be a writer, a recording engineer, a mastering engineer. It's getting crazy.
Do you want to address the question about do all mixes have to be hot, or is leaving some headroom a good idea?
It depends on the kind of music you're doing. I mean, I'm constantly in awe of what's coming off the radio these days. Some of these mixes, I don't know how they're getting them as hot as they are. I mean, in some of the pop world, it's crazy how slammed these mixes are. I mean, if you're doing standards and Miles Davis and jazz and orchestral music, headroom. I mean, of course, you got to have the strings breathing. You got to want to hear some air. If you're doing a singer-songwriter song, you want some air in there. But that earlier piece, the one that was the heavy metal, I mean, slam it all away. There should be like the waveform just looks like this.
Years ago, I did a record with Melanie where we did a full band live in the studio with an audience of 30 people for 10 nights in a row, then cut the 24 track and then mixed it. And I used very little compression on the whole project, and it sounded so great when I go back and listen to that now. But it wouldn't, comparatively on radio, it wouldn't work today.
My last name is Mayer.
Couple last questions. Any engineer can brickwall your song. That's not a question. How can I learn to mix from taxi feedback too? You know what? Best thing you can do, take your mixes, put them on the forum in the peer-to-peer section, and ask other more experienced members who are good mixers to give you advice. It's such a great untapped reservoir of helpful members that most people don't bother to use. But anybody who does use it will tell you they love it.
The other thing too is put your mixes up against other things in the genre. I always recommend if you're going to a mix, when I go to a mixing engineer, I'll bring in 5 reference tracks that are of the same genre, the same thing I'm trying to convey.
Yeah.
And I'll sit there and we'll put them both up, and A/B, back and forth and back and forth, and
Yeah, does the bottom end feel about the same? Is the level matching? Is the air there? All those things that we're looking at.
And those are the pieces that no supervisor's going to comment on. They're just going to go, nah.
Feeling it or not.
Exactly. And, as far as volume goes, I mean, if they're trying to replace a Black Keys track or a Zeppelin track or whatever I send probably should be somewhat in that ballpark.
Yeah.
Volume-wise. But it's kind of funny, when you listen to music, if you go to 106 power 106 and then you go over to the oldie station and you talk about compression and the variances, when you go listen to old Motown, it's not smashed.
No.
And there are certain films, when they say I want that vintage feel, they don't want it smashed.
Right.
They don't want crooner music that's in your face. They want it to be...
By the way, let me know if you ever want to do crooner tracks and you need a Frank Sinatra vocalist. I know a guy from 35 years ago that I used to record in Fort Lauderdale who now has a touring show called My Sinatra.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And I should introduce you
Absolutely.
if you need a singer. 'Cause
I always need
I went to
singers.
see him at Caroline's, or oh no, what's the name of the jazz? Catalina.
Oh, sure.
And you could shut your eyes and you thought you were in the room with
A
Frank.
friend of mine books that club.
Oh, cool. Then he'll know the guy. All right, one more question, and we're out of here. This is the longest show we have ever done, I think, and well worth it.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Hey,
This has
Bob,
been
would
fun.
it
Hopefully I
be
helped.
nice to hear on Black Toast Records works as an extension of the library? That seems pretty unique to BTM.
What do you say? I'm sorry?
He wants to understand how Black Toast Records works, the record side of what you do. Why do you have a label? And
Oh,
how
you
does
know,
it benefit the artist?
okay. Oh, that's from Scott Horton. Hi, Scott. I'm glad you're listening. Black Toast Records was an idea I had at this point now, maybe 11 years ago. And the reason I thought of it was I was seeing the decline in the record industry business.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw the incline in people going to library music. I saw a lot of the record companies scrambling because record sales were diving.
Mm-hmm.
They were scrambling to do the business that I was already doing, meaning I was getting placements in film, television, and advertising.
Right.
So they saw that as their next place to get money because their records weren't selling. So let's get our music in film and television. It was sort of, that used to be an adjunct. It wasn't
Yeah.
a focus.
Yeah.
Now it's a focus.
Interesting.
Okay, so I saw this happening, and I'll never forget. I was on a CCC panel, and I turned to, I won't even name their names, but there was 5 libraries. They're all huge, sitting on a panel with me, and I said, "Mark my words. In 3 to 5 years, we're all going to be record companies." And they all looked at me like I was out of my mind. But I said, why would I not want to be a record company? I mean, I was seeing emails almost daily. Heard this song on this show. Where do I get it? Where do I buy it? Heard this song on this film. Where do I buy it? And it was just starting to happen organically. And I'm like, well, gosh, and the internet. You with TuneFind and all these things, and every show now has their own. You can see what's being played. So the fans of the shows were reaching out to me, and I'm like, it only makes sense. I'm already doing the business the record companies want to be doing, so why not do it from the other side? Start a record company. So it took me a while because I don't have their bank,
Yeah.
Not unlike you guys with your mixes. I didn't have multis of millions of dollars to
You're
just
not paying
start a company.
$100,000 advance on every
Right.
record you put out?
Right. So, but I also did it to legitimize some of them taxi riders in the eyes of the end user.
Great point, because we had a listing the other day. They said, tell your people only submit if you've got something happening on the internet.
Exactly.
Why is that? Why do they give a damn?
It's perception.
Yeah.
And I saw it very early in the game. Again, it took me 5 years to finally get it where I could get it to happen, because it takes a lot of manpower. Again, it takes a lot of work to just get it going. But I did it because it legitimizes the people I sign. They now have this perception in the marketplace as, oh, this is an artist. This is his body of work, and there's this identity now. So these are big supervisors I'm sending stuff to. So when I can send a link and it has this, I'll never forget getting a great placement in a film. They negotiated the fee. I'm going, yeah, great fee. And then get a phone call, a month later. And they still wanted to use the piece of music, but they all of a sudden perceived me as a library. And they said, well, we can't pay that fee. And I said, well, you still love the music, right? It's the same piece of music. I said, you loved it then at this price. Why do you not? It's perception. Wow. It's a lesson in perception. And
that's sad.
It is sad, but I would be a fool not to pay attention to the nature of the business.
Yeah.
Because my job is to get these people placements and to get them the best fees I can and to get them high profile.
But you can't sign everyone who's in your library to a label deal.
Well, it doesn't make sense. I mean, the guys that are churning out, hundreds and thousands of instrumental tracks, wouldn't make any sense. Or, if I have one or two songs from a writer, it doesn't make any sense. But what was happening was there were certain taxi riders and other people that, it was like, goodness gracious, you guys are prolific. Your body of work all holds together in a very logical way. And I contacted them. I said, what do you think? Do you want to do this? And 100% of them come back to me and go, yeah. And I go, great, okay. Our deals are the same. Everything's bada boom. Now we just have a face that goes with the name, that goes with the tracks, that goes with the placements, that goes with the this. Does income come in from that? Yes. And I would say Black Toast Records is in the black. Which, no pun intended. No pun intended. But the point of the matter is there's such a desire for this music out there. And I have writers now calling me up going, hey, you got this placement in this show. This show gets this viewership. Can we do a single? And so I've started to do some of that as well.
That's cool.
I want everybody it's win-win.
We just found out about a member getting something in, I can't say the show yet because I don't know that ink has been put to paper, but I think the deal offer has been made. $5K for reality, a $5K sync for a reality show.
Those are rare.
Yeah. I almost fell out of the chair. It's like, really? You sure you didn't add a zero?
Right.
That, but
right.
It's real.
Right.
I was so happy because the member happens to be one of those people that you want to see win.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The fees are out there, and you want to stand tall as often as you can. I mean, what's going on in the world of business is, and we have these conversations, and at a later date on another show, we can do this again. But some of what's going on behind the scenes is abhorrent. The business.
Oh yeah, that's a whole other show.
That's a whole other show. So
let's just say not everybody is operating in a very honorable way.
Well said.
All right. With that, Bob, thank you so much for doing this.
Of course.
I know how big this guy's really. If we're swapping emails, around 11 p.m. at night, you know how busy he is. So, and thank you guys for showing up. I hope this was helpful and that you learned a lot. And we will get him back again. And you will also see Bob at the Road Rally coming up November 5th through the 8th in Los Angeles. Be there or be square. See you guys next week for another exciting episode of Taxi TV Live. Bye-bye, you guys.